This, the FBI report coming out about why they didn't bring charges against Hillary Clinton and the state of play in the election with Congressman Adam Schiff, the ranking member on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. He is a Democrat from California who has endorsed Hillary Clinton. Good to see you, Congressman. How concerned are you that bringing in that Breitbart element, that fringe element into Trump and his acknowledgement, it seems, with these moves, that he's going to come at you guys as much and more than ever?
Well, I'm not that concerned about it, frankly, because I think there's no changing Donald Trump. He's made that abundantly clear. I'm not sure this new team is either going to be able to control him or steer him in the right direction any more than the old team. I think he's going to continue to be inflammatory and reckless in his comments. And that concerns me a great deal, not politically, but it concerns me in terms of our national security interests, because a lot of what he's said, now being repeated by the likes of the leader of Hezbollah, does damage to our national security. It feeds into the narrative that ISIS and others have maintained against the United States, or al-Qaeda or Hezbollah or Russia, and I think that's deeply damaging to the country. But politically, I don't see much change in the campaign.
He's also making arguments, though. Let me play some sound from his Law and Order speech. I want to get your take on it.
The Democratic Party has failed and betrayed the African American community. The Democratic Party has taken the votes of African Americans for granted. They've just assumed they'll get your support and done nothing in return for it. They've taken advantage of the African American citizen.
Now, right now, the polls have Hillary Clinton at 91% support in African-American communities, and they have Donald Trump at 1%. I don't think either of us have ever seen a number like that. It's almost hard to believe it's real. He's got nowhere to go but up, and this is a saleable argument to many voters out there in those communities, Congressman. You guys have been in control of a lot of these big cities. Life is not better there for people. Why should they stick with the Democrats?
Well, because I think they see the Democrats fighting to improve the quality of life in these communities, and they see Republicans often standing in the way, and that's been a big challenge during the Obama administration. It's not that the president hasn't tried and in many ways has succeeded, but often where he has run into difficulty, it's because of the obstructionism of the Republican majority in Congress. And I think it's going to take a lot more than a few statements like that by Donald Trump to persuade people that he is now suddenly a champion of the African American community. I don't think he's going to be able to make that case any more than he's the champion of the Latino community, or the champion of working poor families, or the champion really of anyone except for a few billionaire elites like himself. That's all really Donald Trump has stood for.
But one more beat on that. Yes, most policies are top-down on the federal level, certainly, but we're talking about local governments here. I know that this isn't what Donald Trump's exact impact is. He wants to impact his own election, but down ballot, Baltimore, Ferguson is a small place, but Flint is a big place. Philadelphia is a big place. These are all democratically controlled places, in some cases for decades. And life there is not what it needs to be. Why reward the Democrats with more tenure?
Well, I think you have to determine what are the Democrats offering. What is Secretary Clinton proposing to improve the quality of life for people in these communities? And I think if you look at her policies in terms of trying to raise people up, breaking down barriers, increasing wages, dealing with criminal justice reform, all these policies are very much in line with what these want to see take place. And then you look at someone on the other side of the aisle, Donald Trump, who is divisive in his rhetoric, often hateful in his rhetoric, often bigoted in his rhetoric, and I don't think that's really an option for any of these communities.
Another big development here, the FBI report justifying no charges against Hillary Clinton, now in the hands of Congress. Initially, the campaign, her supporters, did not want it to come out, said it was bad precedent. Now they're saying they want everybody to see it. What's the play?
Well, listen, I'm still, frankly, coming to grips with the fact that the FBI and the department have sent us these materials. I said before they did so that I thought this would be a serious mistake, and I'm really concerned that it will have a chilling impact on people's willingness to cooperate with the department in the future if they know their private interviews, their private statements are going to become political fodder for Congress. And where does this stop, Chris? Why doesn't the Financial Services Committee now demand the closed investigative files on any high-ranking banking officials who were not indicted after the financial meltdown? Why don't we look at any politically sensitive investigation where charges were ultimately not brought and demand those closed investigative files? And what will the Bureau say? We're not going to do it this time because we don't want to. That's the problem with establishing this kind of
Although I got to
precedent.
tell you, though, Congressman, that sounds pretty good, what you're saying, though. I mean, especially when you talk about the banks, nobody going to jail for what happened in 2008 and beyond. Why not? I mean, a lot of these things are politically motivated. A lot of people do get out of situations that maybe they shouldn't. Why not have it more of a public and open review?
Well, it does sound pretty good until you consider the fact that does this mean that Congress is going to get into the decision-making on who to prosecute, and that people that are willing to give and cooperate and be interviewed because they think that what will be said will be maintained, its privacy, the grand jury secrecy of that, can no longer count on that because Congress will get its hands on everything. Congress will everything, as indeed is our history, at least in the last 5 or 10 years. So it will have a real chilling impact on the investigations. It also, I think, will have an impact on the deliberations within the departments if they know that Congress is going to be digging through their files and in a way that they have never had access before. So while it is attractive on the surface, I think it's a real mistake and won't ultimately serve the interest of justice.
Well, in this case, it has happened. So the question now becomes what is in there and what impact it has on the election. And obviously, we'll know that when it comes out. Congressman, thank you very much for